Let's do an exercise using a published study. This was an article published by the New England Journal of Medicine on the effects of moderate alcohol consumption on cognitive function in women. So essentially the question is, does one drink a day make you smart? Should you be drinking 1 glass of wine a day until the exam and then you'll do better in the exam? Let's take a look. So this study used the nurses cell study. There were 12,480 participants, so nice, large study. And you can review the article and then decide the type of study design. But let's focus on the results. And in particular, let's focus on the global cognitive score down here. Here is a larger picture. So we're looking at the relative risk. One is the no. And we are comparing, the reference is no drinking. So we're comparing heavy or moderate drinking to no drinking. The conclusion was that there is an association with moderate drinking with a p-value of less than 0.05, but not with heavier drinking. Do you agree with this assessment? Hit the pause button and then decide if you agree with the conclusion or not. And by the way, do not get distracted by this typo. If you're still thinking about it, let's draw a p-value function. So again, we're trying to figure out if we agree with the conclusion or not. If we do agree with the conclusion that moderate drinking is associated with better cognitive function, then we should be drinking moderately, potentially on a daily basis. So let's take a look. So here is the p-value function, same way as we have built it before. So we draw on the x-axis the relative risk and the p-value on the left axis. We find that the point estimate right here is approximately 0.8. And moderate intake is this function here. And high intake of alcohol is on the outside. So now, what do you see about this? What do you see? I don't know what you see, but I don't see any difference. These are spot on. Right here, same estimate, same estimate. So why would we want to say that there is an association with moderate but not heavier drinking? Can you think at another explanation of why this is happening? Well, let's think for a moment. This was a nurses study. Do you think there will be a lot of nurses drinking heavily? Or there will be only moderate? So there probably will be very few nurses drinking heavily. And so what happens, this confidence interval up here stretches out because the number of nurses is much smaller than those drinking moderately. So this has nothing to do with the strength of association. It's probably related more to the number of nurses. This problem now is, actually this article is used in epidemiology textbooks to show the problems with p-value, and quite embarrassing for the New England Journal of Medicine to have published this study. So hopefully you do not agree with the conclusion, and because of the, after drawing the p-value function, you see something a little bit different. So in the New England Journal of Medicine, how did they address this, and what have they decided to do about this? Well, considering this mega fiasco, and there are probably many examples like this of misinterpretation of the results because of just focusing on a single p-value, which carries very, like, essentially no information on where your estimate is, how strong the association is. And so New England Journal of Medicine had decided to abandon the p-values. So you can remember as p-values have poco value, they have a little value. So bye-bye p-values, your era is ending. And you can check this discussion. And if you're still not convinced that perhaps we should not be focusing on p-values, especially in observational studies, and at least try to avoid the following. Do not inundate your paper, capstone, dissertation, or report with the word significant or not significant. In fact, when I work with students and I see a paper, the first thing I do, I take a pen and start deleting every time I see the word significant or not significant. There is no need for that. We do not want to dichotomize. That's even worse than actually presenting the p-value. So we don't want to simply say significant, not insignificant, or even be bound by it, or deciding that this is, I had students that were concerned about the results being not significant and did not want to submit a paper. So do not report p-values as greater than or less than 0.05. Really, it's not clear what it is. What does it mean? So it is best to report the estimates with the confidence intervals.